Donald Trump and his regime have realized that their tariffs are so unpopular that now Trump's team is already floating the possibility that they may reduce or remove tariffs as early as tomorrow. Howard Lutnick, Trump's Secretary of Commerce, says that Trump may be expected to announce some type of compromise with Canada and Mexico as early as tomorrow.
With Trump tariffs going into effect on Canada and Mexico, there's been a lot of chaos. People have definitely been angry and also fearful of the way things are going to turn out. Canada and Mexico both retaliated immediately against Trump's tariffs, and they are not backing down anytime soon.
Trump tariffs in effect, and people are losing their mind. They are listening to the media, and they're using fear, and they're selling and panicking. But let me tell you this much. When you panic, the big businesses and the big money, they make the money, because when there's blood in the streets, they buy. All right? So that being said, some good news already coming from these tariffs. First and foremost, Honda announced that they're going to be bringing the manufacturing back to America and producing over 215,000 Honda Civics. 215,000 Honda Civics. In addition to yesterday, a $100 billion investment in the Taiwan microchip manufacturing in America. That is some things like, almost like the tariffs are already starting to work. Now, short term, there's going to be volatility. People are going to panic because of the media, and understanding that sometimes in life, you must be willing to go through the trials, through the tribulations, in order for the greatness on the other side. We must go through it in order to grow through it. So all you have to do is to turn off the news, go outside, touch some grass, and just breathe. At the end of the day, let's see this through, because we've been on a direction, we've been on a ship without a captain for the last 4 years, and it was a disaster. So let's see this through. I know there's going to be some pain, and in life, the biggest motivation is to avoid pain, but if we go through it, I promise you, we will be okay. Together we stand, divided we fall.
Tariffs, I guess. All right, so Trump's tariffs, I guess, went in today, and my stocks are in pain right now. For those of you who don't understand, and I'm pretty sure most people who watch my page understand this, tariffs are generally not good. There are scenarios where, it is beneficial to implement tariffs, but doing a mass tariff on a country is just a terrible idea, and I'll demonstrate why. This is what Donald Trump thinks companies are going to do when they see these tariffs. Oh man, these tariffs are so expensive. I'm just going to manufacture the supplies I'm importing from other countries in the US so I don't have to pay these tariffs. This is what the CEOs are actually going to say instead. Oh man, these tariffs are so expensive. I'm just going to raise the price of my goods so that my customers pay the tariffs for me. It's a way better idea.
Too expensive. Trump's tariffs begin today. When you head into the grocery store or mechanic, know that our president created these hiked prices just for you, starting today. Trump's disastrous foreign policy plan is going along just fine for him, from ruining our country's reputation internationally to, as of last night, tanking the stock market with the introduction of 25% tariffs on all goods from Mexico and Canada, and a 20% levy against goods arriving from China. Taking effect last night, the taxes on imports will cause prices to rise. This will hit the auto industry and anyone with a car particularly hard. Additionally, new predictable price patterns impacting produce and meat suppliers over the border provide a restaurant-ending threat to mom-and-pop businesses that don't have the operating revenue to swallow the raised prices. Being a border economy, Texans are likely to feel the pain first.
Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And apparently, Donald Trump didn't know what he was going to get either when he decided to levy 25% tariffs on Canada, because Lindt, the chocolate company, supplies 50% of Canada's chocolate out of the U.S. to Canada. And what they are highly considering, instead of paying the tariffs, is going to Europe and supplying Canada's chocolate from Europe. This is the exact opposite of what tariffs were supposed to do. It was supposed to bring manufacturing back to the United States, according to Donald Trump. But this is the first example of probably many in which companies that supply products internationally to these companies that have these tariffs on them now are going to be going out of the country because Canada and Mexico has their own retaliatory tariffs, and Lint is not going to pay those. They'll just go use their factories in Europe to supply 100% of Canada's chocolate. So this is absolute 100% backfiring on Donald Trump, which we knew it would. So Lint chocolate, the first of many to come. So you never know what you're going to get, do you, Donald Trump?
Tariffs will affect the gardening and liquor industry. Everything from vapes to Don Julio could be going up. Let's start with how these tariffs affect the gardening industry. Vape products will be impacted. Most vape cartridges and devices come from China. With higher import costs, dispensaries will have to raise prices. Many gardening brands get their packaging like Mylar bags and glass jars from China. The tariffs could mean higher costs for businesses, which may be passed on to the consumers. Gardening growing supplies will also be impacted. This is for your flower. The people that grow your greens use a lot of important materials like LED lights, fertilizers, and nutrients. Some fertilizers, like potassium-based fertilizers, are expected to be hit the hardest by tariffs. Alcohol will also be hit. The alcohol industry is bracing for higher prices, especially for products made in Mexico and Canada. Some major brands affected include, don't jump me, Jose Cuervo, Don Julio, and Casamigos, okay, as well as Código 1530 and more. Okay, for beer, Corona and Modelo, which is owned by Constellation Brands, which gets almost all of its beer from Mexico. Molson Canadian, which is also owned by Molson Coors. For whiskey and spirits, Crown Royal and Canadian Club, Absolute Vodka, Jameson, Irish Whiskey, Jack Daniel. So if you love vapes, tequila, whiskey, or imported beer, get ready for possible price hikes. Legal gardening and alcohol brands are scrambling to adjust, and consumers may see higher prices. It's looking like it's going to be a real sober summer.
I'm sitting here in my pick pack shipping room for my award-winning skincare brand, where we do all the manufacturing, all the distribution, all the shipping, all the marketing in-house. We've been doing it for years. I am acutely aware of the impact this is going to have, not just on big businesses, but disproportionately on small and medium businesses. Your neighbor, your friend, your cousin, your dad, all of us.
Well, even before November 5th, as far back as December, Canada warned they were going to do this. And after Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico went into effect today, Canada immediately responded. The Canadian Premier said that they will immediately impose a 25% export tax on power to 3 U.S. states, Minnesota, Michigan, and New York. So if you live in one of these 3 states, effective immediately, your electric bill is going way up. This affects over 1.5 million people in these 3 states. And frankly, I don't blame Ontario for doing this. Justin Trudeau spoke today about how disgusted he was that his closest ally has now become someone in a trade war with him, and the U.S. is buddying up to Putin.
The United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense.
And the problem gets worse. It's not just the 25% tariff on electricity. Along with that 25% surcharge on the electricity they export, the Premier told reporters that we will not hesitate to shut off their power as well. And this is all due to Trump needlessly putting tariffs on anyone he can because he assumes it's the answer for everything. Imagine Canada shutting off power to millions of people in the States because Trump decided to bully his ally and try to extort them for more money. Meanwhile, once again, it's just going to be us paying the difference. These tariffs are not going to help the United States or Canada at all. They're just going to unilaterally raise prices and screw everyone over.
As a result of Trump's tariffs, I personally am down about $700 or about 2%. If we're being honest, that's exactly what rich people that voted for Trump wanted. Let me explain. They knew that Trump's tariff plans were at minimum going to cause a correction, at maximum going to cause a recession. During those times is when the wealthy make out like crazy. Let's give you an example. Let's say before the recession, they had 100 shares of VOO at $530 per share. That means they had roughly $53,000 invested, making them $2,000 a year. Now there's a small correction. They buy 100 more shares at $500 per share. That means their average cost goes down about $515 per share, and they now have 200 shares. When the stock market goes back to fair market value, they will have saved $3,000 by buying low, as well as make $2,000 more a year of income. And trust me, I know $5,000 does not seem like much, but they're dealing with millions of dollars, not just $53,000. This was just an example to put it in perspective. Again, the only people that have liquid cash to be able to do this is the wealthy top 1%. They're going to continue to get richer, and people like you and me that are just saving for retirement are going to get left behind.
Trump tariffs is going to make y'all into farmers. This is actually one of the great opportunity for anybody that has acres of land to start breeding their chickens, their cattle, everything, because these tariffs is going to force us to, grow everything inside. And that's exactly what he wants, but it's going to take time. We're going to have to struggle before we get better. So you guys got to think about it that way. They're not going to struggle because they got the money for it. But we're going to be the ones struggling. So we're going to have to use our brain. We're going to have to be collective. This is actually a blessing in disguise, because now everybody's realizing who's the true enemy is in our society. The true enemy is the oligarch.
$80,000 truck. It's $100,000 now. So he's not going to buy the truck. It's going to sit on my lot at the higher interest rates we're paying right now for floor plan, and nobody's going to buy the truck because it just had a $20,000 price increase.
Right. Kelley Blue Book will put the number up. They say the average vehicle will go up by about $3,000. Does it sound right to you?
No, it will not. We don't have the broad stroke. We don't have the linear, the tight strokes. But to me, it's a 25% tariff. So that affects our parts that come from over these countries, and a whole bunch of our cars.
And you've been basing your business model on free trade, basically. This is what the American Automakers Policy Council says, Maria, in response to this. They say our American automakers invested billions in the U.S. to meet the requirements of the current free trade agreement. They shouldn't have their competitiveness undermined by tariffs that'll raise the cost of building vehicles in the U.S. and stymie investment in the American workforce, while competitors from the outside of North America benefit. The German, there's no tariff on the German cars coming in now.
No, they're
Japanese.
They're going to be okay, but think about it. We built our business around that. The OEMs built their business around that, and now it changes on a dime, and we can't build a $4 billion plant overnight in the United States. So I think building in the United States is great. I think enhancing the participation from the other countries on the other things, but this is pretty radical.
I hear you.
So to the surprise of probably nobody, the tariffs did go into effect today, but there's already talks of rolling them back. Howard Lutnick came out today and he's like, maybe we'll all meet in the middle.
But I think he's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle some way, and we're going to probably be announcing that tomorrow. So somewhere in the middle will likely be the outcome.
That's a wild way to do diplomacy and geopolitical relations. It's not like take backsies, it's not like, oh, I take it back. It's like, these are lives that you're putting at risk.
You got this. You can grow, 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 grow. I love you. Grow.
To be honest, guys, the best thing to do is just make sure you're prepared. Stack up on seeds, stock up on food, and make sure you know how to grow food. Make sure you have, generators, things like that, and just be prepared so you could have that peace of mind. And I think that's very important. That's the message at the end of the day, is don't just be dependent on the government. Depend on yourself.